Obviously, we have been seeing some crazy things going on with the dollar, from banking collapses and crisis going on to billionaires now shorting the dollar. So it's no surprise that obviously people are looking for, where do they put money, right? What do you do when everything is crashing down, when the dollar has problems? You have a banking crisis, Fed rates, the doom porn can go insane with everything that's going on. And obviously, you got to put fire in thumbnails. That's obviously where we are right now. But billionaires really are betting against the dollar, or at least hedging themselves at some point in case something goes wrong. Because obviously, you look at the state of everything going on, and you say, well, maybe it is time to take a little bit of safety. And Ray Dalio, who's probably one of the most well-known hedge fund guys, he's kind of in shock of where people's money is going. You can see him right here saying, I don't understand why people are more inclined to go to Bitcoin than gold. And obviously, this is a much older person kind of approach to say, why aren't you buying gold? But the reality of gold is it's already failed. Gold has already failed as a kind of medium exchange thing for people to hold their own kind of money. It didn't work out. That used to be the case, and then the government came by and stole everybody's gold and then took away everyone's gold from the currency, from the dollar, so it wasn't backed by anything anymore, and they moved on with their day like that. So people look at that, learn from that, and say, well, Bitcoin could have a different outcome from that. Not to mention all of the extreme costs that come around with gold, where you can't hold your own gold. Well, you can, but it's going to be pretty expensive and a pretty big risk. Someone could steal it from you. So when you look at the difference between gold and Bitcoin there's a lot of similarities between gold and Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, in my view, is a much better version of gold. This is what Ray Dalio said, kind of talking about this, saying, I don't understand why people are more inclined to go to Bitcoin than gold. If you look internationally, gold is, for central banks, the third highest reserve asset. First is dollars, then euros, then gold, and then yen. And central bankers are buying gold, and they're not buying bonds. And it is timeless and universal. So although gold can be timeless and universal, it's only timeless because it's been around so long, right? And then universal, you're not gonna be transacting in gold. Those days are long gone. We're not gonna be carrying gold bars around in our pockets, transacting around. It's very hard to make the gold transactions, right? If you have a gold bar and something costs half a gold bar, what do you do in that situation? How do you pay for that thing? You can't, right? Unless you go through a huge process to melt it down, take it all apart. So you have bigger problems there, right? And also, you have paper gold, which is really haunting for gold, because people buy tons and tons of paper gold. The banks get in trouble all the time for manipulating gold and metal markets. So it's not something that I don't see you being able to put money into gold and have real extreme confidence there, because one, you can't hold the gold yourself in the vast majority of times. You mostly only own paper gold, like an ETF or something. So you don't actually have those same attributes that Bitcoin has, where you can hold your own Bitcoin, you can put it into your own wallet, your private wallet, and then there you go, you have it. Nobody else has that. And if you just look at like the main kind of quote of Bitcoin is this right here: don't trust, verify. There's a lot of trust that goes into gold, right? You have to really trust that someone's not trying to rip you off, because you see that all the time. You see things like this. Manhattan jeweler wound up with gold bars filled with tungsten. So obviously this person thought they were getting gold. You could run all the tests because it's covered up, and it would come back great. And then all of a sudden you'd get it and say, wow, you got scammed and you paid way more money for something that isn't what you thought it was. And that's not going to happen with Bitcoin. You can't fake Bitcoin, right? If you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can't receive something that's not Bitcoin there. You can't send something that's not Bitcoin out of it. So there you go. You can't fake Bitcoin. And also, if you look here where Ray Dalio says, if you look internationally, gold is held third highest reserve asset. But if you're saying you're going to flee to something, your thing is that central banks hold a ton of it. Central banks hold a ton of dollars. So why would you flee to dollars? So it just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? That notion doesn't make a lot of sense. And typically, there's a ton of backlash that comes with upgrading financially, right? When you look throughout the times, when it went from cash and checks to a credit card. People were saying, oh, what, are you crazy? I've never used a credit card. And now look today, we all use credit cards. Even when debit cards came out, it was, what, are you crazy? I would never let anyone use my debit card. And here we are. That's all we do is use cards. So it seems kind of natural that the old guard is always going to fight against the new stuff coming in, because they either don't really understand it or don't want to get away from what they already know. But if you're going to talk about gold in terms of an investment, right, and saying, why are people flocking to Bitcoin? This makes no sense. Gold and Bitcoin share a ton of similarities in how they kind of work and how their fundamentals are. And if you look at the assets, obviously gold's a massive asset, $13 trillion. It's had a pretty good year this year so far. And if you look down here, you got Bitcoin at number 11 at $567 billion market cap. So obviously gold way bigger than Bitcoin, right? So when these two are kind of correlated, if you're talking just the numbers, then Bitcoin's going to outperform gold simply because it's a smaller asset. And you can clearly see that if we look at the price of gold for the year to date this year, about 8%, which is good. That's not terrible. That's perfectly fine. It is above inflation, so at least you're in a positive yield here, but it's not great. And obviously gold did have not really a big fall. If we go from the peak here, 2020, it's kind of traded sideways for the past 3 years almost. So, you know, you take that with what it is. But if you compare gold to Bitcoin here from year to date, about 8%. If you look at Bitcoin's price, 76%. So Bitcoin about 10x outperformed gold in their correlation here. So that's why people would be more attracted to Bitcoin than to gold. If you're looking strictly off of the numbers, is because in an environment where gold thrives, so does Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's probably going to outperform gold by a pretty large margin. And also, if we looked at just Bitcoin around the same time gold, that peak was around August somewhere, you can see Bitcoin still up 144% since the same time gold is actually about like down 2% or break even or something. So that's why people are holding Bitcoin, because it's way better than gold. It's a smaller market, so if you're looking at just numbers, it's probably going to move more than gold. And what's good for gold is good for Bitcoin, right? So it's just crazy to me, kind of, that Ray Dalio, who knows what he's doing, is a billionaire hedge fund manager. He should have some sort of idea. He says he owns a little bit of Bitcoin, but doesn't really like it. It's crazy to see people still going down the road of Bitcoin is terrible and Bitcoin's trash and gold is the greatest thing in the world. Usually they're just older people and they probably don't really know what Bitcoin even is. And if I had to own something for, say, the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I'd probably rather own Bitcoin than gold. Gold really doesn't do much in terms of value moving up or anything. It really doesn't do anything, but that's going to do it for this video. As always, don't forget to smash that button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.